You're listening to Black Parents Aging, where we help you navigate caring for aging loved ones. Every Wednesday, we'll discuss how to help your parents successfully navigate this new season of life. We are going to talk about legal, health, technology, and finances. Here's your host attorneys, Olivia Smith and Nicola Robinson.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Black Parents Aging. It's Olivia Smith, and I am happy to be back in the podcast chair. It's been a few weeks, and so I know that we've been doing some episodes on health topics, but I'm happy to be back with something that is right up my alley. We're going to switch it up today, and we are going to talk about why a will is a ticket to probate court. Now, when folks call our office, they generally don't call our office and say, yes, I would like to have my estate planning done. Nah, what they do is they call and say, I need a will. And they say that because when you think of estate planning, you automatically think of a will. It is the most popular document. And people think that that is the go-to. That's what everybody needs. Everybody needs a will. That's not true. And oftentimes people don't consider the problems or the setbacks to having a will. In Georgia, when you say that you want a will, what you are inevitably saying is, I would like to be in probate court. Because the only way that a will is carried out is through the probate process. Probate is the process in Georgia where the state steps in, gets all up in your family's business, and they do that to make sure that your deceased loved ones' debts get paid and that their assets are distributed fairly and the way that you have requested them to be done. So the probate court oversees the process. This can be time consuming and it can get expensive. And so before you say, I want a will, there are a few things I want you to consider about the probate process and having a will drafted. The first thing is probate isn't private, it's public. And so what that means is once you file the will in probate court, anyone can get a copy of it. Some courts in Georgia even have it where it's viewable online. And so if a family member has been disinherited, if someone has been left a substantial gift, everybody's going to know it. If you left a donation to your church or your favorite nonprofit or your alma mater, everyone will know it. So the first thing is, if you decide to have a will, don't ever think that anything you put in there will be a secret. We're going to know all your business. So that's the first thing. It's public. There are no secrets in a will. We will see everything that you put in there. And for some people, they don't want everybody all up in their business. And so instantly when I say it is public, they are not interested. The next thing that you should consider is the expense. And that is because there are fees associated with probate. You have a filing fee. You have service fees where heirs have to be served if they don't consent and waive service. You have publication fees. You have to publish to make sure that there are no creditors out there that your loved one owed money to. So they have to be put on notice. And let's not forget what could wind up being the most expensive fee. And that is if you don't feel like you can carry out this on your own and you need to hire an attorney, there are legal fees. So when you think about saying that you want a will, you should also think about what the fees are going to be associated on the back end to carry this out. The next thing, if we're not talking about money, let's talk about time. How long does this process take? Best case scenario, I would say 9 to 12 months. And that is the best case scenario. That is when everything goes according to plan. But let's keep it real. Like, how often does everything go according to plan? Never. So why is this a problem? It is a problem because certain things are frozen while the court is reviewing and responding. The house, if it has a mortgage, and no one steps up to pay it, or if there's not enough liquidity in the estate to pay it, it can go into foreclosure. If the loved one who passed was paying for a grandson or granddaughter's college, those funds aren't accessible while you're going through this process. And so the list goes on and on. It disrupts because everything is put on hold while we're going through this process. And one of the reasons that that is the case is simply because the court has to locate the heirs. They have to put everyone on notice that this person has passed and that there is a will. And if you've fallen out with a family member and you don't know where they live, or you haven't spoken to them and you're trying to get in touch with them, it could take a while. And so while you're trying to track people down, everyone else is just waiting. The next thing is, and I don't think people know this, is it opens the door to additional actions. So say your loved one had property in Alabama or Florida. You have to open ancillary actions there. And so that is more fees and more time. I think that is a fact that not a lot of people know, but you would need to open up ancillary probates in every state where that person owned property. The last thing I will leave you with for now about things to consider when you're thinking about whether you want to avoid probate or whether you want to go ahead and have a will or what to do is your will can be challenged. It can be contested and disputed. And this is where things get really ugly. It can be done for a number of reasons. It can be done because a loved one feels like there is something that is owed to them. It can be done out of spite. And in the state of Georgia, the process opens it up for heirs are given the opportunity to object to a will in Georgia. Oftentimes, what I see, however, is there's a loved one who's had a conversation with your deceased loved one. And in the conversation, your deceased loved one may have told them, oh, I don't know, they wanted them to have a particular thing. And it's not reflected in the will. And that person has a really difficult time understanding that they didn't get it in writing. It's not in writing. It's not in the will. And so it doesn't stand. And they don't want to hear that because they want whatever it is that they had been promised. And so because of that, what could have been a quick and neat process becomes slow and painful. I think what I want you to get out of this episode, at the end of the day, you're grieving. Someone that you love has passed. And you don't want to be caught up in probate court trying to probate their will and arguing with your loved ones. So when you go to do your estate planning, please keep that in mind and really think through whether a will is going to be the best instrument to achieve your goal. Because probate can be very emotionally taxing. And that's something that I want you to consider as you make your decision. As I talk about this, I'm thinking of one case that I had where I had 5 siblings who got along great. I was very impressed with their relationship, with their willingness to work together. And I thought, okay, we're going to be in, we're going to be out. Everybody's getting along. This is going to be great. And in the middle of probate, this person showed up and said he was my dad too. And the 5 siblings looked at him and were like, who are you? They didn't know him. They never met him. He was a stranger. And so that put all of our probate on pause because we had to figure out, was this person an heir? And so there had to be DNA testing. We had to go to a whole nother court to figure that out. And so the probate process stopped. And it stopped for months until we could get all of that worked out. And then we could come back to probate. That is what happens. It opens the door for those types of things to happen. And so at this point, if you're thinking, okay, I said I wanted a will, I thought I wanted a will, maybe I don't want a will because I don't want to deal with that. And I don't want my family members to have to deal with that if I can avoid it. So your question now may be, how do I avoid probate? Can I avoid probate, and how? The answer is yes, you can avoid probate. And one of the ways you can avoid probate is through a trust. A trust is another instrument, but it offers you to be able to pass things along, pass your assets along, and do your estate planning, and everything remain private. So a living trust keeps family business out of probate. It can save money, it protects privacy, and it ensures that matters are handled quickly and not drug on for months. Your trust can be simple, or you can add all sort of stipulations, and it can be more complex. A trust is flexible, so it really reflects what your wishes are, what your family looks like, and what you would like to see happen. We have trusts where you're saying, I want to make sure that my spouse or another family member gets this income, this yearly income. We have trusts that put stipulations on children receiving their inheritance. I've drafted ones where they say, okay, if my child goes to college at 21, I want them to have this amount. At 25, I want them to have this amount. And then at 30, they can have the rest. And so it allows you that flexibility to really craft the plan as you see fit, as you would like to. Now, don't do this yourself. So find an attorney. We do trust all the time. We would love to do your trust. If you don't live close to us, find another estate planning or elder law attorney that can draft a trust. The beauty, I believe, of the trust is the work goes in on the front end. And so in a lot of ways, it's a gift to your loved ones. For example, say Jane Smith has opted for a trust. She is the owner of the accounts, but we would transfer the title of the accounts, the home, the property from Jane Smith's name into the name of the trust. And so that looks like this: Trustee Jane Smith, trustee of the Jane Smith Living Trust, and then dated whatever the date is. So then when Jane Smith passes, there's no need for probate court because we don't have to change title. Title has already been changed into the name of the trust. And what happens is the successor trustee, which is someone that Jane Smith has named, steps up into Jane Smith's shoes and assumes control of the trust assets and follows the plan that Jane Smith has already laid out. Part of estate planning is making sure everything is set up correctly, such as real estate. For example, most people who are married couples want their surviving spouse to be able to keep the home when they pass. We can title the property in a way to make sure that it passes directly to that spouse without ever having to go into probate court. For instance, we can make them joint tenants with right of survivorship, because that means that by operation of law, the surviving tenant automatically owns the piece of property. If two people hold property as tenants in common and one dies, that doesn't necessarily mean that the other would automatically get it. And so these are things we can do when you come in to work with us and plan to see how we can achieve your goals, and how we can make it as seamless and as simple as possible. No estate plan is the same. There's no cookie cutter. And I say there's no cookie cutter for those of you who are going to listen to this and say, well, let me just Google this. Let me find a template on LegalZoom or Rocket Lawyer and let me go about drafting the will and or the trust on my own. I beg of you, don't do that. I had 2 calls this week, and we're going to be representing those people in probate matters. In both matters, someone other than an attorney drafted the will, and it is an absolute disaster. It is going to require litigation for us to try to fix it. We are committed to trying to fix it, but those people are going to wind up paying so much more now to try to fix the error than they ever would have paid in just having a competent attorney draft the documents properly. And so that is my flashing light of caution to you. When you try to save money on the front end and you don't do things correctly, you wind up paying on the back end. And we don't want to see that happen. Whatever you decide, we want you to be well educated. We want you to make a decision with all of the facts. And whatever document you decide is best for your family, we want it to be drafted correctly so it reflects your wishes and it carries those out the way that you would want them carried out. But I do want you to understand that if you get a will, it is a ticket to probate court. And with that being said, I thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that something I said was helpful. I hope you got a gem or you learned something new. That is always what we endeavor to do. As always, we love to hear feedback. So we love to hear from you. We love your comments. We love your questions. Do you have something that you would like for us to talk about? Or do you have a story that you think would be interesting to share? We are always looking for stories that are in line to really drive it home to people why we do this work and why we think it is so important. It's a judge-free zone. We just want to help. We want to educate, and we want to make sure that you are empowered with all of the knowledge to make the decisions that are best for you and your family. As always, you can catch us. We are on all social, well, let me stop. We're not on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We are on Instagram. We're on LinkedIn, SR Law Group. Please join us, talk to us, reach out to us on any of those platforms. We have a Facebook group specifically for Black Parents Aging where we can continue the conversation. And we would love for you to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. You can subscribe to Black Parents Aging. We do a Facebook Live on Fridays at noon as like an after the episode. So if you have questions, we can answer them there if you get in contact with us. And I hope that you have a great day, a great week, and I will see you next time on Black Parents Aging. Take care.
Thanks for joining us this week on Black Parents Aging. Check out our Facebook group at Black Parents Aging, where we go live to answer your questions. For more info on today's topic, check out the show notes on our website, srlawgrp.com. If you know someone who could benefit from today's episode, please share a link to the show. Subscribe to the show to catch new episodes and leave a review. Until next week.